Very good, gamers. How are we? This is Games and Chill, and today I am pleased to announce that you are in the legendary build of Xilonen Diandina Anjeta. Xilonen is definitely one of the best characters in the game, a game blackmailer and the character you leave the most to regret not having on your account for the reason you find the best. If you put recommendations, the number one is to take out Xilonen, not for the couple of reasons you all think, but for exploration and for the important, which is within almost any team of the game today, and above all the most important and most played teams in Yi. Generada, this is the most interesting part of Xilonen, and today we will see the construction. The sets, the gun, the constellations, you know that apart there will be a video of the C2. So leave in the comments how many you have of that video, the talents, what is important to go up, what is the level of heating, how to activate all passives, but above all, how to get maximum performance to Xilonen. So you know, leave a good like, a good ulti of DNS subscribe, leave a good comment for the algorithm. Thanks for enjoying and watching the channel video. Remember, it doesn't cost you anything, it's totally free. So recommend the video giving your good free like that is totally free to play. So this explodes and I can do things pay to win for you. Thank you for all the support and affection. The channel team is eternally grateful. And lastly, also welcome and invited to the direct. Now yes, we go with Xilonina's legendary build. Well, normals don't go up there, but I committed myself to you and the community that within the building there would be one part where I would explain how Xilonen carry works. So I'm going to explain how Xilonen carry works. Not now, but whoever wants to wear it Xilonen carry, because obviously they will have to turn up normal attacks because time of intuition of your elemental when you hit with Geo is scaled here. But in principle for most players of Xilonen and their conventional playability are not raised the normal ones. Then the elementary ability is crowned. Because the more you max the elemental ability, the more you're going to increase the lower elemental resistance to the elements of the disc that can be 3 and can be the same element, 2 different characters with which it does work on the computer. Noivilet, Furina, Xilonen, in fact we'll talk about him. I'll make a separate video talking about the teams that improve Xilonen, and which are not, because there are teams where Kazuha is still more useful for various reasons that I will explain in a video shortly, the day after you're watching this video, so wait for it. But you do have to max out and crown your skill Elemental because it's your most important skill for lowering resistances. Here are many texts. I explain to you what is the point of your elementary ability, and the point of the first talent that goes with your basic ability. Basically, the elementary ability activates the descent of resistances when you reach the maximum of points. So, Phlogisto, easy, right? How do you get to the maximum of Phlogisto points? By activating the elemental Win 45. The maximum is 90, and in this ascension, talent says that when you have 2 samples that have undergone a change, that is, it may be 2 hydros, or 1 hydro a pyro, 1 electro a cryo, but at least 2 that have undergone a change. Here's why it doesn't work with the triple Geo milestone in short. You're going to use a normal, quiet 35 points of extra noctambulism. That's why the combo you're going to make us all over the world. To correctly activate your elementary ability is elementary ulti that you will be seeing it right now with Flechitas and Calmly. Thanks to the elementary editors, ulti 2 normal and looks perfectly like the bar or elemental 2 normal ultim. In my opinion, as well as you can't control when the Favonius jumps. I would recommend to start activating the heating as soon as possible. Elementary ulti 2 normal if you are playing with Furina, because the sooner you activate the heating, the sooner you start to activate the loads of Furina that still have overheating like this. That the elemental has no more, and basically these changes that is explaining to you are just pyro elements. Hydro, Cryo, Electro, and if there are 2 characters of the same, that is 2 characters of different element that make an elemental change. You get one of the 3 albums being Geo, so you're going to lower it. Resistances, Geo, example, Nevia, Xilonen, Furina. Bennett, you have Fiorina and Bennett that activate you 2 elementary changes, but at the same time as they are 3 albums, you still maintain Geo, which activates the loss of Geo resistances. So if you can play with double Geo Navia with Fiorina and Bennett, that's how easy the elemental is. And finally, I think that in the bullet, there's no need, but the elemental basically is the exploration. So amazing, and I think it's one of the best mounts along with Moalani, also Kinish. So for open world is obviously, I would recommend a team of Moalani Xilonen or Moalani Kinnick. Although, Xilonen Kinish forgives even if they have no synergy, because you know you do that. And when you give He's because you throw the Ocelot, you do that's amazing. It's an incredible saddle outside of Outside of NATLAN, you spend Noctambulism points inside NATLAN, you spend Phlogisto, and obviously lasts a lot longer, but for out of NATLAN, unlike Moalani Kinish who lasts quite little, you have enough time to be doing. And there is the incredible Ocelot, the elementary ability, now the ulti, because the elementary ability, as you see, is quite easy. Ulti is very simple, and here comes the thing, has only 15 seconds of cooldown, and this is what makes it say a character. Of Arcanti cooldowns that adapts to all the teams of the game, the elemental also has only 7 seconds of cooldown. It's amazing you can reset it all the time to reactivate the low resistances, sometimes you literally feel like it. The ulti has cost of 60 and cooldown of 15 has cost of 48, really, because you have this talent right here that this From here I think it is yes indeed that says, when if you have the maximum of Noctambulism, you activate an effect similar to an explosion noctambulates once every 14 seconds. This means that on the equipment basically does not activate a load of the low. Noctambula explosion is normal that has cooldown. Plus just as much as I think it is 15 seconds. But you activate 2 loads. Burst Noctambulo, because I explain this because the set, if we read the 2 pieces, says when a character close to the team that uses an explosion Noctambula, the carrier of this set, recovers 6 points of energy. This is activated twice by rotation, with which 6612, 60 minus 1248 cost, has one of the lowest energy costs of the whole game, literally, and what is what the ulti does. The ulti does a geotick initially, and then you activate the spoiler healing only beat. Activates if there are 2 samples of elements that have changed, as well as when the resistance drop is activated again too. What's the use of this? So that you don't play yes to triple geo, so that you can play at least 2 characters of some element that is pyro, hydro, raised, or electro in the silo teams, and this limits it. Not so I say that the best teams work and most played, but to cure, at least as I say, you have to have 2 changes in the musical samples that can be the same element as, say, 2 hydros, and then the 3rd triangulite that stays from geo. The cure is a damn madness. I have tried it in the free-to-play with only double defense helmet probability in Favonius, and already with double defense and Thea. Last level 10 I have in the free-to-play against obviously Chero, but that constellations do not matter for Gilin. I cure 7 ticks, and 2 ticks lets me full any character, and any character who has an ulti that is 1.5 seconds or more throwing the ulti. Plus the Castella elementary life is going to take 2 ticks always, i.e. it has overhealing, no need to. I'll talk about whether or not it's worth it in my opinion. I'll say exactly what the gun does and we'll see, and you'll do what's important first. Talent to give 2 normals. The set has, for example, specifically in the current case of Genshin Impact, until there are more characters in the future for Moalani, because Moalani in the ulti can accumulate up to 3 loads of Night Bus than the Moalani team with Xilonen. You can do more damage with the ulti by having these 2 loads of Noctambulism of Noctambulo burst thing than before Xilonen. I couldn't next encourage this ascent of a lot of text to change in NATLAN between mounts, and that puts the illuminated character. Orange color you change and fly already is a lot of easy text constellations, as I say. I will make a video apart from the ACT Woo. But basically the cone is not important, just to give you this without interruption in the first half of the constellation, as it helps you do the exploration. Like Moalani Kinis have a cone that helps you. The exploration is interesting, says it reduces 30%. The consumption of Noctambulism and Phlogisto points an increase 45%. The duration of the Noctambulism points more time to be in elementary ability to explore more, let's say quality of life bar comfort. But I wouldn't say that today deserves the penalty, but the cone with the resistance, the interruption that gives you is a compliment, is interesting of course, but it is a compliment to the C2. The C2 that does first the musical sample geo will always be active, means that without having to Use the double Geocon Navia IEE in triple Geo, you will always activate the sample John that there are not 2 elementary changes. Is a bill between quotes and is to be able to play if you double it in triple Geoconite. Short answer if long answer. You still don't activate the Gillen, so if you don't activate the Gillen in the triple Geo, you're not really going to activate something that could come up. To be interesting, you can still support yourself with the Goru C4 that cures you a little, but capable the last character as it could. Be a kooky that gives you Gillen and Electro Pulses for crystallized ones to activate the Geo consonants and everything else for that. The triple milestone Geo will work then if not in C2. The first part of the text will always activate the triangulite. The Geo sample to lower resistances matters only for the triple milestone John. The rest of teams you will always activate. Geo's musical sample now for the same triple milestone Geo, you will also activate 50% damage inflicted on the Geo teams. With which, if it is born too, if it is best in slot for the Geo teams. Although remember that with triple Geo will not cure. Now, returning to all normal equipment and normal build and all the usual Shiloh situation in which it is what it does. The C2, for the rest of the characters as well all the characters of the element that has changed a musical sample of Bob. Xilonen winning a spectacular Bufo if you change a Bufo if you do. If for example there is a character Pyro, your carries Pyro win. 45% attack Mavuika in the future. Surely but today Line and Arlecchino in gaming for teams where he plays Shiloh. In with them that you can play in powerful Hydro, the maximum life of the character's Hydro of the team increased 45% since 45%. The team on the billet, of course, Jesu Christo, best in slot, the best alternative ceiling game changer, new best equipment practically. We'll talk about it soon for Mualani. The same thing will take her to heaven as she hasn't done crazy things like no C0. And if I baby, it's C0 making 1,000,000 with the ulti of damage in Abyss for teams of double Tau Hydro. 40%, 45% of life to Furina. And yelling an endless list of crazies just like this, 45% attack, would also serve for a language she's on international teams. For example of Tatalia Gilalo and in Xingling Bennett for example. Now we go to Cryo, which I think is the least important, but it gives you 60% critical damage Cryo. I say that by spring. It is not bad instead of Kazuha, but I repeat I will speak in the video equipment from Xilonen, but I think this mostly serves to play a team of riotously burns over melt over burn. With Xilo instead of Bennett, because here on a team of Ryodsly, Jinling, Nahida, or Emily and Xilo instead of Bennett, you can start the rotation by punching with Ryodsly and making the complete combo of Xilo in to activate the set, and then it'll put 60% critical damage to Ryodsly then. It could be that a melt over burn with Ilo instead of Bennett. Ryodsly also operates and finally electric 25% point of elemental energy and reduces 6 seconds the cooldown of the ultis of the Raiden Hyper. Carry Raiden Hyper, carry Electros with rotation of 15 seconds that is not giving you, as we say, more really hurt, but it's giving you the same damage just in 15 seconds, and it compensates you for the energy you don't generate in less time. Then giving it to you still enables you the best Raiden Hyper carry of the game, changing rotation of 20 seconds that has Sarah. A 15-second rotation that have Xilo in and Bennett is amazing, is one of the most powerful in the game along with Furina's. And Nahida is crazy, and I'll make a video aside because it just doesn't make sense, is C2C. 3 elemental, plus 3 pa. What to go down? More resistances and also to do more damage, with which people, many of them will be tempted by this C3, C4, a lot of text. Next, C5, the last is 3 chicks. You do much more damage being carry basically, and you say, row C4 to see the C4, I don't know what does, but I know it was worth it at the time, and it wasn't very important to say refuse the elemental skill Xilo in the application over Al. The close characters of the team in effect thanks to the flowers. 15 seconds increases damage, normal attacks loaded down. All the characters, the effects of this in 65%. The defense of Ilo in this effect is imitated, is eliminated. Attractive. 6 times, or at the end of its duration, it is worth. And if you hit several enemies, you consume loads for this. I said not the important thing. It's like they're old-fashioned, but the loads disappear much faster because 6 loads and you can hit them again severally. Enemies is just a really hot shot to the first few hits, 2 or 3 initial hits, or against enemies 6 hits with lots of fun. Characters do multi-hits with multi-hit. With Arlecchino do multi-hits. With most characters, less gaming for example. You do multi-hits with which it seems to hurt you more, but it's not that important or that interesting maybe to nuclear yes too. Very fast damage like with Mualani for example, because this would do par enough to Mualani but for equipment outside NATLAN. of multi-hits in general, almost all literally, or for the auto of Raider and the carry, maybe not so interesting the C4 seems. A lot, but those 6 loads you're gonna blow up right away, and it's not that much, and the 6 turns it into a carry, basically makes it do. Brutal damage now sets your set, basically, but here, as well as explaining the low resistances and the 2 normals for noctambulism points, I'm going to explain that you have to make sure that if they have crystallized it from the concrete element. I explained it in the first impressions, and a lot of people didn't. It's doing and it's saying that it doesn't hurt many. It's not that it doesn't hurt, or it doesn't buffer the damage of the equipment, is that because, example for a team of Mualani, if you play Mualani Nahida Xiangling x Xilonen, which is one of the current teams of Mualani, more powerful basically than starting the rotation by giving a normal Mualani attack to bring Hydro to the enemy and then change directly to Xilonen to make the combo. And as the enemy has Hydro, as you're hitting it with Geo, you're going to activate the set, because the set activates 40% elemental damage 20 seconds. Only if the character, the carrier, makes a reaction to an element that you want to bug, and that makes bug as much the element that you're doing the reaction as the element itself is saying the Geo and a Geo. That's why when a crystallized Geo, you're going to activate 40% of elemental damage to Navia. That's why it's the best character to play alongside Navia, Furina Bennett, or Xiangling Bennett on the Navia team. Then this is important to remind you what. On a Hu Tao team that has also seen people say no, with Hu Tao yes, that serves us depends on the video equipment. I will explain how much improvement and in what situation Hu Tao improves, but the summary is similar, is rare. Because the rotation with Hu Tao you should pull. Hu Tao's ulti at the beginning of the rotation, that would say that doesn't make sense, because the truth you have to throw it away, because if not, Pyro, you can't do the combo to get the Pyro crystallized, and that buffs 40% elemental damage to Hu Tao, and that you're Hu Tao. Target 200,000 per normal attack by charged attack, so it's weird, can be hard to understand for people who aren't very put into this kind of thing, but the summary is that you have to make sure that the enemy has the character element that you want to bubble, is to say in a Raiden, and per carry won't bother you because Raiden leaves the eye sticking Electro and you already get in the combo with Xilonen, and there's going to be no problem because there's going to be a crystallized, but with Bullet, Hu Tao are good example. I've explained before also with an example of a team where there's no more cryos, so you have to punch in with Gray and to put cryo to the enemy, the combo of Xilonen, and then you throw because Emily Xiangling, and you play the melted inverse. About Burn of Yuri's Sly, this I will explain in the video of equipment of Xilonen. Then the set is very important, is it set? But it is what you have to look for, and that is sought for here is very interesting, because having explained to you since with the ulting T, it's literally overheating, so you're going to have to cure just a character who's in the field at the time. Basically, if you go defense as I carry triple defense, and I have all the probability in substat to activate the Favonius. Now we talk about the weapons because I have 3,200 defense, and I have to see Gillen a Savinkotis, and I have left the Gillen. That means that basically the defense doesn't matter as much as the weapon of NATLAN's forge as that of his own weapon his own. The only thing that gives you part of the defense that you don't care about is 25% of Bon Elementary Year to the team that could be considered. But I don't think it's worth what a gun costs for 25% of the Elementary Year to the team, because what the Favonius gives you, which are extra particles to have Prime Ulti, seems to me even more interesting, being a 4-star weapon but without enter the weapons as it is built as well. I would recommend General for everyone defense helmet probability, which is also going to give you overheating, and in the States basically look for more percentage defense, flat defense to assure you that cures rather well, more probability also to ensure that it reaches 65-70 probability for the Favonius to be activated. And I'd say if you're wearing Favonius, you don't even have to look for recharge. But if there's a little recharge out there, it would give you enough. Maybe it'll help a little bit. It's not bad. But that's easy defense and probability helmet that you're going very well. So I have this always jumps the Favonius, and I have 73 recharge, but the Favonius me to 61, with cost of 48 if it nan with that. 61 of the Favonius, you have cousin ulti, but if you have a little more to make sure you do weird things or weird rotations and that, the ulti has it whenever you need it, even though you don't rotate perfect, because nothing happens. Then what is the minimum? Look between 65 and 70 probability to secure the Favonius, and above the recharge that gives you the Favonius I have 73. But if I was 65, I wouldn't mind either, because I'd still have ulti cousin when we have to get out of defense at least 2,500 with I. The ulti 210 to make ticks of about 6,000, 6,500. That's so in 2 ticks you put 13,000 to each character, and you have all the characters full of that easy. And finally, There are people have asked me, and I explain it even a bit bizarre by helmet of Gillen bonus. Not because you have about Gillen, you don't want more Gillen there. People have asked me also about Master Helmet, so that for... I don't think it's crazy. I don't think it's crazy. I haven't tried it yet, but I'd rather keep it conventional and not trust too much shields for a lot of mastery than you take, because I don't think that still carrying 500 Master's Shield is a shield of Jonglei will break you from the blows, and right now there are enemies who make a hit of one shot that you could avoid with a shield anyway, but I don't think. I haven't tested it yet. Seems to me simply an interesting option to comment on the Master's Helmet, but obviously it's not going to be the most recommended thing in the world, let alone so this is Xilonen's construction. Hi, I am the Phil of the future, and I'm here integrated into the build to remind you that there's always some will, there's a summary will, so you can see maybe. If you're not going to see the 40, or in this case, I think it's 26 minutes of will down here in Tactor, so you can review quickly. In a graph as the weapons, the equipment, the devices, the pharma, and anything fast that you need, so little more. Go to touch a little kiss and keep watching the video with the Phil of the past. Now the guns, basically, I'm going to tell you. 4 weapons, 2 of them directly from me. I'm going to discard the weapon of NATLAN's Forge that gives us defense. Defense, discarded if Xilonen with the ulti at 10, and literally only 2 defense items already has to see Gillen do not want. A weapon that gives you defense because you don't want more Gillen already, cures you from 2 ticks to all the characters, and it's inevitable. I'll make you 2 ticks per character because you're gonna throw the ultis with the rest of the characters, so they go 2 Gillen ticks. There's no use to you a weapon of defense. The weapon of NATLAN's Forge, discarded. Put it around here, editors, with a red circle. Here it doesn't work for Xilonen then. His weapon is same criterion with the 80% defense that gives you that they don't serve for. Nothing because it cures you enough, but the passive gives you 25% elemental bullet to the team, is the only thing to rescue from the weapon. And now, I have explained to you the comparison with the Favonius. I personally will only recommend to you 2 weapons that are Favonius and a 5-star weapon that I now explain, but I prefer to recommend the extra particles for the team that gives you the Favonius. Well, above his own weapon that gives us this 25% elemental balance to the team. Because that 25% elemental balance to the team is fine, is not the big thing, is interesting, and it's a little bit more, but it's not worth it with what a gun costs. 5 stars in counterpart, a 4-star weapon that you will have in your account with the extra particles to have. Cousin ulti, with all the equipment, so Favonius in all options, and my opinion, Favonius above his own weapon, which, it's the last weapon I would basically recommend to you, Kazuha's gun, and you'll say yes, because it has a passive that you... It's going to give 20% attack to the entire team in teams where you want the attack, and it's going to give you 15% normal and loaded attacks. The whole team serves, of course, and Bufa also the team, and besides gives you mastery in the substate, the weapon of Kazuha. That will strengthen you the crystallized in a slightly insignificant way, as well as a master's helmet, but something is something, and a crystallized or 2 that make you resist some interruption once or twice by rotation already is more than nothing. It's interesting with which, apart from the Favonius, if you don't have it, I would subtly recommend Kazuha's weapon, but for nothing you get warmed up. For his weapon, if you already have it, then if the gun gave power to her and the team there, it would be a weapon that would say to take out his weapon. But prefer to recommend first of all the Favonius, and to finish the stats you have to have so close between about 2,800 and 3,000 defense. If you have more, then you will cure more and recharge it then between 165, 170. But if you have 61 of the Favonius walls, and you have no more perfect probabilities, 65, 70 to activate the Favonius, but if you don't have Favonius, it doesn't matter, totally the same. You don't have to carry probability or damage if you don't carry the Favonius, exactly the same. And now if not in DPS, quickly then. The set that I would take if not in DPS is the set of NATLAN of Obsidian that gives us 40% of elementary bullet because she likes. Enter into a state of Noctambula Blessing will activate it. Then you would have to go up there. Yes, with Xilonena's carry mode had. That'd make a 909 for everything to do a lot of damage, or a 919 even the substats as typical of a carry with defense clock. Because she scales with Kali CEO defense and probability helmet, because she doesn't gain probability unless you have a norm. Probability but helmet probability mainly, and percentages. And I'd say recharge, but also very little because Still has low cost of 16 in field, it generates well of particles and weapons for Xilonen, carry itself. Gun that gives you a lot of defense and so does give you 45% elementary bullet if it's a good weapon for her, like carry the gun. Kiori is also a good weapon for her as a carry because it still gives you defense, gives you 88 critical damage, i.e. it's a good for her as a carry. Kiori's own gun, Furina's weapon, is also a good weapon for her as a carry, and weapons in general that give you probability or damage. There aren't many more that give you defense, but probability or damage are good for her like carry. Also that you have to look like carry because if you have a weapon of probability or damage at least 7200, and if you go gore, UC kicks gives you 40 more, with which you cap the critical ratio, so 7200 gore, UC psychs recharge in field, about 125, 130 at most will have. Cause an ulti, and once you have all that, all you have invested in defense to play Xiron in carry and teams of Xiron on carry gore Uchinix is not bad if you don't want me to cure you. Then play Xiron in triple Geo carry with gore UCX and last. I know even a Navia clouding the elementals, or an Albedo, a Kiori, whatever you want, and last you could play any Gila, like there's no Gila that will protect you because play any Gila basically if you want to play a Xiron in E. With Furina you have to combine there already with a powerful Gyler, then you could play a Xiron in that if you have 2 elements. Different will activate the heating after playing Xiron in carry Gyler with Furina, with a second Geo that may be the one. Kiori Song de Albedo wins you, and finally you don't want to blow the attack, and the Gyler is already Xiron and you can buffa. You can try to pull out some other character that's a very good sub DPS like a Xilonen to combine 2 damage bonuses inflicted. For example, the Xilonen bonus with the Furina, bonus with Xiron, in which will activate the heating with which you already have the Gyler, and either Zhongli or Albedo sub DPS or Kiori sub DPS or whatever you want to activate the consonants. Geo, that is very powerful, so little more teams, all the best of the game today. And I will make a video apart, surely, the day after I see this build of all the teams, where I will only speak exclusively and little by little of each and every one of the teams, included weird things that you imagined as Tartaglia, as Ryathersley mentioned before, or as something that I'm missing to prove as the same triple milestone Geo with the C2 I'll talk about in the video. All the combinations will not be missing. Not one, and I'm missing one. I'm having fun in the comments. And even this is the whole Xiron build with everything that's needed. Learn from the character to do what we've managed to do, live that people are seeing crazy, asking. How do you do that? How are those damage? How bloody madness, how it is built so far to Chero in both accounts like this. I'd imagine a little more to leave a good utility and subscribing to you. Leave a good counter algorithm if you like. I ask you from the heart to give her like that. You have no trouble subscribing with bell, that for you totally free, isn't even a guy, or even a minimum effort is tickling, and that's it. So thank you for all the support, and now you care.